Welcome to The Self-Led Woman. This is a podcast about emotional eating, the experiences that shape our relationships with food, and the path back to self-leadership. These conversations go beneath behavior, held with deep respect for the wisdom of the body and the ways it learned to cope, adapt, and survive. And when we can peel back those layers and meet the parts of ourselves that need care, we begin to see that food was never the problem and we can return to who we really are. I'm your host, Megan Darnell. Let's dive right in. There are things that your body does sometimes that make absolutely no sense. And unless we find out the deeper workings of that, then they'll make complete sense. So just as an example, sometimes you might wake up and you're anxious for no reason. Or you feel like you're on edge, even though nothing bad is actually happening, like your life is kind of smooth sailing at that point. Then we have like eating behaviors or other behaviors like overeating, emotional eating, binging, and then shutting down or going to freeze responses, being snappy and not really knowing why, people pleasing, or needing food to come down from a day that felt really overwhelming. It almost feels like, and this doesn't have to be food, it can be wine, but like it's something to take the edge off. And sometimes when we engage in these behaviors, we think, what's wrong with me? But to flip that on its head, nothing is actually wrong. Your nervous system isn't malfunctioning. But I want you to ponder this question, like, what if it's finishing something? The nervous system is not designed to keep you calm. And there's so much talk of the nervous system on Instagram and all of these platforms. And that's what people think is the goal, but that's absolutely not the goal of the nervous system. The nervous system is actually there to keep you alive. Calm is a byproduct of safety, a felt sense of safety in your body. But it's not actually the goal. Obviously, we want a felt sense of safety, but we don't want to be calm all the time. If someone is chasing you down a dark back street, you don't want to be calm and be like, oh, they're probably just going for a run. But they've got a knife. We don't want to feel calm all the time. When we go into like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, that's your body's beautiful intelligence doing its job. It's your system responding exactly as it's designed to. And it learned to respond when something once felt unsafe or unpredictable, overwhelming, or just too much emotionally. And sometimes the nervous system response, it didn't even start with you. So in a healthy system, in a system that's doing its job, fight and flight responses complete processes. So if you think about in nature, like say an animal's attacked and it survives, it doesn't actually start intellectualizing like, oh gee, why did that lion chase me? It just shakes it off, it discharges, it completes the response, and then just goes back to grazing. But sometimes humans don't get this luxury. And I'll use this example of us as children because this is especially true. So say, for example, you grow up in an environment that isn't safe. It could be emotionally, physically, energetically, or maybe just unpredictable. When you're small, you can't fight and you can't run away like flight. And we depend on the people around us, the adults around us, for our survival. But whatever's going on in the house might be the thing that's overwhelming you or being too much for your system. We can't fight or we can't flight, run away. So we'll either freeze and hold it, or sometimes fawn, like go into people pleasing, because that keeps us safe in that scenario. Again, your nervous system is doing exactly what it's designed to do. But when we can't fight or flight, run away or fight back, or protect ourselves in that way, it doesn't actually disappear. Like, yes, fawn or freeze keep us safe, but that gets stuck in our body, in our muscles, in our breath, like in the tension of like our jaw or in our gut. And if we relate this back to our relationship with food, like these responses sometimes don't just belong to our own experiences, they belong to the generations before us, our mothers, our grandmothers. So sometimes our nervous systems are actually holding something that was never ours to resolve. But our body might be carrying unfinished survival responses from our parents or our mothers. And it's that, like how I explained before, fight and flight are what complete a process for us to fight back or to run away. But if our bodies can't do that, they get stuck. And if our parents have unfinished survival responses that didn't get completed, they then can pass that down. And it might not show up as memories or like, I mean, rarely do we have things come out intergenerationally unless we're doing a really deep healing session or we're doing a journey of some sort or, some kind of regression therapy. They might come up, but otherwise they'll show up in our bodies and it might show up as repeating patterns or hypervigilance and emotional responsibility and being really high functioning, never needing support, never wanting to be, a burden or ask for help. And when our system is overloaded or overwhelmed, it is very easy to turn to food for comfort or distraction. So what gets passed down, we know that like trauma can be passed down, but also incomplete trauma responses or incomplete nervous system responses that are designed to complete a process or resolve themselves don't get completed, they get passed down. And our bodies, with all of their brilliant intelligence, they hold it. So if we're speaking to the mother piece here, because this is sometimes where a lot of shame can creep in for women, but say, for example, your mother was like very overwhelmed, anxious, maybe depressed, angry, unavailable, or just inconsistent because she had her own stuff going on, or emotionally unsafe, your nervous system will adapt to that. And this isn't conscious or something that you choose. But we learn very early on as little girls, or if I stay pleasing or agreeable or helpful or not needing too much or not being too sensitive, all these things that we get fed or told. Don't ask for too much. Don't be selfish. We hold all of that. And this creates a nervous system that is managing someone else's system. So your body actually now might be trying to regulate a system that isn't actually yours anymore. Like when we're small and when we're being cared for by our parents and our family, the whole family unit is a nervous system. Like we're feeling each other's everything. And we respond. And as children, we instinctively know that our entire survival depends on our parents. So we will adapt and be whatever they need us to be in order to survive. And when our body's still trying to regulate a system that isn't ours anymore, because we're adults now, we're not living, well, I don't think you would be living with family. It can show up in other ways, like in emotional eating, because food becomes this way for us to try and complete a stress cycle, bring our systems back into like a state of, homeostasis, or just like feeling held when we've never felt held and we're always carrying around so much on our shoulders. It might allow you to just take a breath at the end of the day when you're in the fridge at 9:30 p.m. And you might be someone that's never really allows yourself to take a breath, like a big, deep breath and like an exhale. And I don't just mean this as in an actual breath, but it's like a slowing down of your system, a permission slip for real rest. And this is nourishment too. Rest is nourishment. It's not just about food, it's about rest, it's about connection, it's about getting what you need. When your system can be locked in like freeze, food can create movement, or like you're feeling something. Freeze can feel like numbness sometimes, and food can make us feel something. Or if you're high functioning and you don't stop and you're always taking care of everyone else, you might not allow yourself to feel pleasure. And I speak to so many of my clients that like, what do you do for fun? And they're like, nothing. They think about it and they're like, wow, my days are filled with everything else and I don't allow fun. I don't have any outlets. And even if they're saying catching up with friends, and that might feel fun, but if they've got these high functioning or people pleasing parts, that interaction with their friends, they still feel like they're always on because they're still going, well, how are you? And what can I do to support you? And it's this high functioning, it spreads into every area of your life and you don't even know you're doing it. On the other side, like say if you're in, like your system never got to fight back, food can maybe be a way that you discharge your anger. You were never allowed to feel anger. You were never allowed to like throw a tantrum or get angry. Good girls don't get angry. I hear so many women say, oh, I just don't get angry. And I'm thinking, my gosh, that is some suppressed stuff in there. Like, and that will erupt eventually. If not now, later. It always does. Anger is such a healthy emotion. And whenever I work with a client with their parts, because some people do come to me and they're like, I'm so angry, I can't stop snapping at my children or my partner, and I feel terrible. And they feel so much shame for it. But anger is such a beautiful emotion. Our angry parts are just trying to protect us. And anger is the body's way of telling us that a boundary has been crossed. But again, if you've spent your life being in people-pleasing mode or making other people comfortable, you don't have a healthy relationship with your anger. And you see it as something negative sometimes. But it's so good. And if your system like couldn't escape, like as I mentioned before, we can't go into fight or flight when we're children. We can't protect ourselves. So we go into freeze or fawn because we're stuck there. We have to be there. We can't run away, but food is like an exit. Food is like a way to escape what we're experiencing, a way to maybe numb the feelings that are too much. And again, this isn't like this piece around like lacking willpower or being undisciplined. This is your system adapting. And when this has always been your strategy or your adaptation, which has worked beautifully for what you've needed, you know, you don't know any different. And when people say, oh, just listen to your body, when you've never done that, that can just feel so foreign or even just way too overwhelming. Your body, like by this stage, can be, it's not whispering, it's trying to complete a process. And maybe in some cases, it's kind of screaming. And like I mentioned in previous episodes, like sometimes this can show up in emotional eating, and the emotional eating might get much worse, or the food noise in your head might get much worse. That's not a flaw. That is, you are at a space in your life, at a season perhaps in your life where there is less capacity. And so the louder it gets, the more it's actually asking for your attention. And our bodies complete things through movement and sensation, and also feeling these sensations. We can't have completion just by intellectually understanding this. And every single one of my clients, every single woman I've ever worked with has a very strong, me included, intellectualizing part. But for completion, like it happens in our bodies. And sometimes it can mean like shaking or going for a run or crying or trembling, like letting your body do its thing or pushing something away. I often do this if I've got certain tension in areas of my body. Like last week, I had some shoulder tension and it was really bothering me. It felt like a niggle, almost like a borderline injury that I would have got at the gym. But I could just tell it was emotional. And so, because I could sense there was this irritation, this anger in my body, not from anything, but I just noticed that I had less capacity and my patience was smaller. My capacity was smaller. For example, driving and I get angry at red lights. Like, I'm like, oh, hurry up. I just want to get to where I'm going. And, a 10-minute drive, I would kind of get a little bit worked up. And I was like, okay, there's something here that wants me to feel it. Like I'm angry. I can feel the anger. So I just, for a few minutes at home, was just pushing my arms out in front of me, like with as much force as I could, just into the air. But I just kept doing that until that felt like I'd completed something. And then the shoulder tension went away completely. And also getting our anger out through the arms. Like anger is like the the fight response trying to come through. So like allow your body to complete the process. And when we can do that, our systems can have a little bit more capacity. Even if it's just a tiny bit, it's helpful. And that will help your system to have a bit more space. And also your breathing can expand a little bit without you even consciously knowing. And movement's really important for being able to release emotion. And if we don't do these things, like sometimes we can have rage come out of nowhere. Like I mentioned that example before of clients saying, I can't stop snapping at my kids. But it's like it's held in your body. It needs to go somewhere. When we don't, we'll just lose our shit over like the tiniest thing. And then we feel terrible afterwards. And we're like, why did I do that? And maybe you might be on a healing journey. I've certainly experienced this where just at moments when I've been in a space where I felt very safe, my body would start to shake. It's just releasing something. Nothing's actually wrong. Like sometimes people might start shaking and that's never happened before and they're concerned, but that's your body completing a process. Like allow it to do that. Your system's just doing what it's always wanted to do. Remember, our bodies and our nervous systems are just trying to keep us alive. They're doing what they are designed to do. And if we just allow that, we can start to create a little bit more self-trust, a little bit more trust in our bodies, which is part of the journey. So for you to know after all of that, like food isn't the enemy and there's nothing wrong, and food also didn't create these patterns for you. But food is the thing that carried you or carried these parts of you when nothing else could. And maybe you could have a little bit of appreciation for that part, for what it's done for you so far. I know that might be really hard depending on where you're at in your journey. But like our bodies and our parts, like they always have the best of intentions and they're just trying to keep us alive and safe. And when we can understand that, this food relationship can maybe start to soften. And it never comes through more control. But when we have a little bit more capacity, our systems don't need that relief anymore. They don't need that circuit breaker. They don't need that thing to take the edge off. So even by me just speaking about this, and you might notice something might come up for you, like you might feel a lump in your throat or a tight chest or something. And in the past, you might have felt these sensations, and your automatic response is to eat or to find something that's going to take the edge off. Imagine that this is a part of you showing up, and you don't need to do anything, but maybe just put a hand on your heart just to let that part know, like, I see you. I know you're trying to finish something, and you're not alone. And this isn't just like some positive self-talk, but like this is you attuning to your system. And maybe if you thought about the little girl that maybe didn't get the attunement or being attended to in the way that she needed all the time as a child, you can now gift this to yourself. Being attuned to your system. Just noticing things coming up and not judging them, but like letting them know that you're here. It's actually a really beautiful process. So I want you to know that if any of these things come up, whether it's a food thing, whether it's just sensations in your body, whether it's emotion, whether it's anger, it's not anything wrong with you. It's there for a reason, and it's your body's wisdom, deep wisdom and intelligence speaking to you. It's trying to keep you alive. It's your body's done nothing except try and keep you alive. And when you have the right support, the right rhythm and pace for yourself, and you will find this out on your journey with attunement to yourself and care, your nervous system then doesn't need to keep carrying what it's been carrying and carrying things that were never yours to hold. No, this podcast is for education and reflection only. It is not a substitute for therapy or healthcare. If this episode brought things up for you and you need support, please reach out to a trained therapy practitioner or health professional in your area. Thank you so much for listening. If this episode resonated, please follow or subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, or share it with someone who might benefit from hearing it. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Megan Darnell Therapy. If you share the episode or want to let me know what landed for you, you're always welcome to message or tag me. I love hearing from you guys. Until next time, I'm Megan Darnell, and this is The Self-Led Woman.